You don't realize how lonely silence can be until it becomes your only companion. Or maybe you lie awake at 3 in the morning, staring at a cracked ceiling, replaying every word someone didn't say to you. I should have known better, but heartbreak always feels like a personal ambush. Like you're the first fool to step into the same trap 1,000 others already fell for. Her name was Claire, and she left me without warning. No arguments, no slammed doors, just absence, like someone erased her from the pages of my life with an invisible hand. I spent weeks walking around like a ghost, haunted not by what was said, but by what wasn't. The empty texts, the silence after "I love you." Then one September morning in New Haven, Connecticut, she appeared. Not Claire, someone else. The new girl. Emily. She walked into my literature class like sunlight sneaking into a dark room you swore you had locked shut. Blonde hair that seemed to catch every beam of light, blue-gray eyes scanning the rows of desks with a quiet curiosity. And me sitting in the back, arms crossed, daring the world to make me feel something again. It wasn't love at first sight. Love at first sight is a fairy tale for people who haven't tasted the bitterness of betrayal. No, this was more subtle, more dangerous. It was the flicker of something I thought was dead. The way her smile felt like an invitation. The way her voice lingered in the air longer than it should have. First, I kept my distance. I told myself she was just another student, another face in the crowd. But grief has a way of making you notice kindness. Emily was different. She didn't talk to fill silences. She let them breathe. She had this way of leaning in when you spoke, as if every word you said mattered. It unnerved me, pulled me closer. One chilly evening after class, we walked out together. She clutched her coffee cup like it was a lifeline, her breath misting in the cold air. "You always look like you're carrying the weight of the world," she said softly. I laughed bitterly. Maybe I am. Maybe you don't have to. Simple words, but they knocked the air out of me. Nobody had said something like that to me since Claire. And yet, coming from Emily, it didn't feel like pity. It felt like hope. Days turned into weeks. We studied together, sat in the corner of the library where nobody else bothered to go. She doodled in the margins of her notebook, little stars and hearts, and sometimes my name without realizing it. I pretended not to notice, but my chest ached with a sweetness I had forgotten existed. And then came the night everything changed. It was raining, the kind of relentless autumn rain that soaks you through no matter how fast you run. Emily and I found shelter under the awning of a closed bookstore. The world was gray, the streets nearly empty, but her laughter filled the space like it belonged there. She brushed wet strands of hair from her face, cheeks flushed from the cold. "You look ridiculous," I teased, though she looked beautiful. "And you look like you haven't smiled in a year," she shot back, eyes gleaming. The truth hit harder than the rain. Maybe I hadn't. Not until her. Something hung in the air between us, thick, fragile, undeniable. My heart pounded, warning me not to fall again, but every fiber of me leaned toward her. Her hand brushed mine, tentative, testing. I froze, every scarred memory of Claire screaming in protest. But Emily's touch was different. It wasn't demanding. It was patient, waiting for me to choose. I chose. Slowly, deliberately, I curled my fingers around hers. The warmth of her hand spread through me like fire against the chill of the rain. For the first time in months, I didn't feel broken. I felt alive. But love isn't simple. Especially not when it comes after loss. Claire came back. Not physically, though. Part of me half expected her to appear around every corner, but in messages, in whispers from mutual friends, in the gnawing ache of unfinished conversations. Every time I started to let myself sink into Emily's light, Claire's shadow pulled me back. Emily noticed. She always noticed. "You're still holding on to her," she said one night, voice trembling. "I don't want to," I whispered. "Then don't." As if it were that easy. I wanted to explain that heartbreak doesn't vanish with good intentions, that love leaves scars deeper than you can see. But the truth was, I was terrified. Terrified of trusting again, terrified of ruining her, terrified of myself. And yet, when Emily leaned closer that night, when her lips brushed mine for the first time, everything else fell silent. It wasn't a kiss that begged or demanded, it was a kiss that offered. And in that moment, I realized maybe healing wasn't about forgetting the past. Maybe it was about finding someone who helped you carry it. I should have been braver. I should have told Emily that she was not just some replacement, that she was not a rebound, that she was something rare, something I didn't believe I would ever deserve again. But fear has a strange way of stealing words before they can escape your lips. For weeks after that first kiss, I carried her presence inside me like a fragile flame. Some nights it burned warm, steady, promising. Other nights it flickered dangerously, smothered by the weight of my memories. Claire's ghost wasn't finished with me, and Emily could feel it. One evening, she pulled away from me in the middle of the library. Her hand slipped out of mine as though it had never been there at all. Her voice was soft, but the tremor in it cut me open. "I can't fight her shadow forever," she said. "You have to decide if you're living in the past or daring to live with me." I didn't answer. My silence was my greatest sin. For the next week, I walked campus like a hollow shell. Emily stopped waiting outside my classes, stopped sending me little doodles on scraps of paper. My phone was quiet. It was the same silence Claire had left me in, but this time it was my fault. It wasn't until the night of the fall festival that I realized what I stood to lose. The campus quad was strung with fairy lights, laughter spilling from every corner as music echoed through the crisp October air. I stood in the crowd, surrounded by joy I couldn't feel, until I saw her. Emily. She was standing near the cider stand, a knit hat pulled low on her blonde hair, cheeks flushed pink from the cold. She laughed at something her friend said, and for the first time in days I saw her glow again. But the glow wasn't for me anymore. I panicked. My chest tightened, my palms went cold, because I finally understood. If I didn't speak now, if I didn't fight now, I would lose her forever. I pushed through the crowd, every step feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She turned when I called her name, her expression guarded, as if bracing for more disappointment. "I'm sorry," I blurted out, too loud, too desperate. Heads turned. I didn't care. "I'm sorry for letting silence ruin me once. I'm sorry for making you feel like you're competing with a ghost. I swear, Emily, you are not a substitute for anyone. You're the only one who makes me believe I can start again." The quad seemed to fall into hush. Or maybe it was just me holding my breath, waiting. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. Slowly, deliberately, she stepped closer until her hand rested on my cheek. "Then prove it," she whispered. So I kissed her. Not a timid kiss like before. Not one filled with doubt. But a kiss that screamed every word I had been too afraid to say. A kiss that tasted like cider and rain and second chances. The crowd cheered, laughed, clapped, but for us there was only silence. The good kind. The kind that said everything without needing words. The weeks that followed were not perfect. Healing never is. I had to unlearn the instinct to flinch when someone loved me. I had to teach myself that Emily was not Claire. That she wasn't going to disappear just because things got hard. And Emily, she had to learn to trust that I was really choosing her, fully, without hesitation. We stumbled, we argued, we tested each other's patience. But every time we found our way back. I remember one night in November, sitting on the roof of her apartment, wrapped in blankets, watching our breath fog in the cold air. "Do you think people can really fall in love twice?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. Emily leaned her head on my shoulder, her hand lacing through mine. "No," she said. "I think you can only fall once. But sometimes, life gives you a second chance at the same cliff." I laughed because it was so her honest, poetic without meaning to be. And in that laugh I realized she was right. I hadn't fallen twice. I had been given the chance to rise from the wreckage and jump again. This time I wasn't afraid. By winter break, Emily had become my safe place. The girl who had once been the new student was now the center of my little universe. We spent Christmas together, decorating her tiny apartment with dollar store lights and baking cookies that came out half-burned. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't perfect. But it was ours. On New Year's Eve, as fireworks lit up the frozen sky, Emily turned to me with a nervous smile. "Make a wish," she said. "I don't need to," I replied. "Why not?" "Because I already got mine." Her kiss tasted like champagne and forever. Sometimes I still think about Claire. Not with longing, not with bitterness, but with the quiet acceptance that comes when scars stop aching. She was a chapter that ended painfully and abruptly, but she wasn't the whole book. Emily is. She's the dog-eared page I keep coming back to, the underlined sentence that changes everything, the margin note that makes the story brighter. If you ask me now what love feels like, I'd say this: Love is not grand gestures or perfect moments. Love is the hand that doesn't let go when your past tries to pull you under. Love is laughter in the rain, whispered apologies, the courage to start again, even when you're terrified. Love is Emily. And this time I am not silent. I choose her every day, in every breath, in every broken piece of me that she has made whole again. Because my love once shattered in silence, but the new girl lit my heart again. And I will never let the light go out. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.